Hey guys, what's up? It's RK Tolopan here, back with a new version of the Jellymon deck profile. This version I'm calling Jelly Jam. You'll see why in a little bit. We're going to go ahead and start off though with the eggs, same as last time. Got the 4 Demi V, just the guaranteed draw when you give it jamming, so it's the most consistent egg. Those are the only eggs. Then we move on to the rookies. We have the 4 copies of the promo Jellymon, the best Jellymon. And then we have 4 copies of the set 9 Jellymon. This one doesn't really proc that often. You mostly just need these for names because almost all the cards you use require you to have Jellymon somewhere in the inheritables or in the on the field. So you run the 8 Jellymons, that way you always have targets. Moving on from there, we have the utility rookies. We're running Demi V, so obviously the best option from there is the jamming Vmon because it gives you the draw, plus it has jamming, so it's just a threat people got to deal with. It's not too great this format, but there really isn't anything else I would play over it at the moment. Then we got the real spice, 3 Solarmons. This helps tremendously in the format against decks like Crossheart, against Bloomlord, just kind of anything. D-Reaper too. It hurts a lot of decks. So I play it at 3 because it doesn't really hurt Jellymon at all, and I can afford to pass the turn with a Solar. It's not that not too difficult. Moving on to the champion lineup, we have the most important champion in the deck, the 4 Tesla Jellymon. At the end of the attack, you can trash 2 to restand it. Usually when you swing with this, you got a Jellymon underneath. If you use the Tamer Kyoshiro, you can give it jamming. So you basically get 2 jamming checks with it. So this allows you to push aggression really quickly. And it's also Jellymon, so it counts for a lot of the cards. Then we have the champions that I use for my utility. 4 Leomon. Most of the time this will have blocker, if not all the time. It gives you the gain 2 memory draw card, so it just helps keep my mid game up, along with just being a good card in general. We can also play it for free off one of our tamers. For Cordramon, Security Digimon, because our deck is very aggressive, we do kind of want our opponent to be thinking about our security and not just blindly swinging. I can't tell you how many games I win off of hitting 1 or 2 of these in security. It's also just a draw 2. You know, if you break, you can just hard call it. Draw 2. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just a decent card this format. 2 Lobomon. I was running this at 1, bumped it up to 2. There were way too many times where I could have just double Lobomon somebody for game. And it actually happened to me in a tournament I did recently. So 2 Lobomon is definitely the way to go. We're actually running Ultimates this time. 3 of the brand new Thetismon from BT10. This card is nuts. So what it does is when you Digivolve this card, if you have 6 or less cards in hand, you basically get to draw 2. It's a Pot of Greed on a Digimon. Super good. Also, when attacking, it has the same thing as Jellymon, except instead of end of attack, it's when attacking, where you would trash 2, unsuspend. Though you do have to have 8 cards in hand to get this effect. I don't usually get the restand off this, mostly because it's a little difficult to have 8 early, but it's not hard late game. Late game, I'll have 8 easy. Usually this is just Pot of Greed early, plus the 7k body isn't bad either. Just a good Digimon to help me keep up my early, since I'm going to be playing a lot of cards. And then the big meta call this format, 2 Death X-Mon. If your deck can run Death X, you should be. This deck counters a lot of what's going on in the format. Crossheart, Bloomlord, honestly, Black War Gray too. A lot of matchups, they just cannot deal with this card, and you get to play it for almost nothing a lot of the times. It's just too powerful not to run, especially if you have the space. I know we are running the Solarmon, but I can promise you that most of the time that never comes up. Most of the time my Solarmon is dealt with before I would play Death X. And if they can't deal with the Solarmon, then I probably didn't need the Death X anyway to win the game. Moving on to the Tamers, we have the 3 copies of the 4-drop Kyoshiro and 3 copies of the 3-drop. I playtested a lot with the ratios for the Jellymon package. I feel like this is probably the best ratio you're going to get for consistently seeing both of these at 3 because you only really need to see one of each of these, and once you have multiple copies, you just start pitching them to restand your Digimon. This one is your memory setter, the 4-drop, and when you attack with a Digimon that's level 5 or higher or a Jellymon, you can suspend and draw if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand. So this also lets you get to 8 pretty easy. The Kiyoshiro also gives you jamming. This is if you have Jellymon on your Digivolution sources, you can suspend to give the Digimon on top jamming. So this allows you to basically swing relatively free and keep your Digimon up. Also, you need Kiyoshiros for the Jellymons because a couple of them require it to be on the field. We're running Leomons, so of course we got to run my girl Jerry. When you play her, she plays Leomon for free. She's insane to hit on security, and whenever your opponent attacks you, you can suspend her to draw cards. So she basically gives you card advantage on top of playing champions that are insane for free. Last Tamer, this was a bit of a call based on the colors I'm running and the option cards I have. 2 Matt and Sora. I don't really play this that often. Most of the time I either hit it in security or I don't really play it because the memory gain doesn't come up very often. The bounce effect does come up a lot, where I would bounce an opponent's level 3 back when one of my blue or red Digimon swings. So it's just a way to help keep your life at a healthy total, because your life is kind of more like a timer than a resource. So you do want to be very careful since you don't have a whole lot of defense. Moving on to the options. We're down to 3 Hammer Spark. I don't need this card at 4. I'd rather make room for more tech options and Tamers and Digimon. It might honestly get cut down even more. I do enjoy having it in security. I hit it quite frequently in security. Obviously, it's a big threat for passing the turn, but I don't need it as much as I used to. So it might be getting swapped, but right now this is definitely the ratio I'm happy with. Then we move on to the best card in this format, 2 BB Thunder. So if you don't know what this card does, because I'm assuming most people don't, you basically pay 4 and you return one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon to the hand. Then, if you have a Digimon with Jellymon in its name or in the Digivolution sources, you can bounce a Tamer. This card is pretty much the reason why I haven't lost to Crossheart playing this deck, because I can basically force them back an entire turn, and then they can't like quadruple X for me because I bounced their only Taiki, or I bounced their 4-drop Tamer and they were set to 1, and then they were forced to basically play from behind, and they couldn't deal with my board state.
Can't play 4x4 anymore since it's going to 1.
This is true. Obviously, it's not as impactful against the Crossheart matchup with the limits, but it's possible Crossheart might come back. Not likely, but it's still possible somebody might crack that list. But this is also really good against Bloomlord as well, since they spam level 4s and level 3s out, and bouncing their Tamer back and setting them to 1 is pretty good if they haven't established a big board yet. I actually did beat a Bloomlord player on Monday at Gaia Force, and it was because of this card, because I was able to bounce his only Sunflamon and his Mimi back to his hand, and he had nothing left on board. So he had to play from behind a whole turn, 2 turns. Last card in the deck, another meta call. 2 Crimson Blaze. Almost every deck is affected by this card. It is insane to play. It is under an errata though, so it keeps your opponent under lock that they can't play Digimon by effects until the end of their next turn, which would be whenever they end their turn. So it isn't as good as it used to be. Obviously, the original wording is pretty good, but a card that you can almost usually play for free, or at the very least 3 to 4, and keep your opponent like Jessmon or Security Control or any deck from like playing a ton of Digimon. This card is nuts. And that's the deck profile. I hope you guys like and subscribe the video for more Rogue Digimon content. I plan on having some more decks out soon. I know it's been a long time since the last video, but a lot has happened in the format, and I always want to make sure that my decks are tested thoroughly before I present them to you guys. Beforehand, we had positive records against Bloomlord, against Shoutmon, against Security Control, and what was that last deck? I think it was Dark Nightmon. Decks we did not perform well against. Jellymon and Black War. Black War is a problem, mostly because when they get that big blocker out, your only out to it is probably seeing Death X, which you can get there. And there's other cards I could be running to out it, but I didn't see a whole lot of Black War, so I didn't think it was prevalent to tech against it. Obviously, that was one of the matchups I lost against. Jellymon is pretty good to play against. If they see perfect, though, you will probably lose. You need them to brick at least a tiny bit.
So the normal Jellymon.
The normal Jellymon, yeah. Big shout out to my team, Royal Knights, for helping me playtest this deck. Also, big shout out to my teammate Thomas for helping me film the video. And we'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.